Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Ultimate Doctor Who Marathon. This is the show where I take a look at every classic Doctor Who story plus a bunch of Big Finish audio dramas, one episode a day, 7 days a week. And today, on the 19th of December, 2019, I'm starting to look at the finale of Season 19, Time Flight. Now, before I begin, as always, well, Doctor Who is a family program. These videos are meant for mainly an older audience, so of course, to be compliant with COMPA, this is not aimed at children. But, of course, today on the 19th of December 2019, we're starting to look at Part 1. Alright, so Time Flight is the first script by Peter Grimwade for Doctor Who. Peter Grimwade has actually, I've talked about him before because he's directed a couple of Doctor Who stories. He directed Earthshock, so so he knows. He directed Earthshock. He also directed Kinda, I believe. And he also started, I think, actually as a production assistant for a bunch of things. I think he started from starting in the early Pertwee era, I think. But he actually directed 4 stories before this. He directed, Earthshock, Kinda, Logopolis, and Full Circle. So, he has his credit for directing. He's directed this team before, but he obviously hasn't written before. So this is one of the first stories where he's actually written a story for Doctor Who, and he is writing this story, Time Flight, right after the death of Adric. And if I'm going to be honest, the fallout from Adric's death immediately at the beginning of the episode starts out great, and then slowly curves down to basically not handle it with tact. You could kind of make the argument that maybe the Doctor is trying to stall and basically try to be like, right, I'm not doing the this full this full story. It's a it's a full this story starts with this interesting idea of it's one of those things where where you have you have the entire story kind of be like, right, we're just gonna distract ourselves from Adric's death, and it doesn't come across right. That being said, after that you move right on to essentially moves right on to a different a different sort of a different sort of of story where, with the characters doing different sorts of things, and to be honest, the sort of the ideas behind the plot are solid. They definitely do you know they definitely do a good idea. You have planes going missing from Heathrow Airport, and with these planes going missing, you get you get you get this idea of the Doctor having to figure out where they're going. It turns out they're going back in time. For some reason, that's the time flight. And as an introduction, it's decent. I will say the the effects behind this story are they aren't great. They are, there's very bad. There's a point, they had stuff location filmed at Heathrow, but it almost feels like they ran out of time. So halfway through you go to this, they weren't able to do any exteriors. So instead of doing any exteriors, they're like, we got an exterior, we got an image, so we're just doing a picture. And that looks, and it's green screened. And I'm gonna be honest, and yes, I should be honest, I'm watching this on the Blu-ray, so obviously it wasn't meant to look like this, but even on the DVD, or the VHS, it looks like the green screen just is poorly shot. The lighting's overblown, you can see the fringing. It looks worse than a lot of John Pertwee green screen. And if you compare this to green screen sections on the Series 10 Blu-ray, you can notice just the difference is noticeable. Yeah, you can still see fringing on the Pertwee Blu-ray, but here it's much worse, and it's very, very, very clearly is one of those things where you have one of those things that the story just it's a different thing, and I think that it's the effects are really what bring this down, because the plot is interesting. People being taken back in time. You have a mystery villain sort of controlling it, and you have some sort of prehistoric creatures appearing and attacking the Doctor at the end of Part 1 for a decent end of Part 1 cliffhanger. At least this first episode is decently structured, but it's let down, one, by just some scripting problems. Obviously, you have just the weird let's completely forget about Adric's death and not really do anything with that at all. But also just trying to do so much on, without really the budget to do it. So overall, I'm going to give Time Flight Part 1 a 6 out of 10. Alright, it's the 20th of December 2019. I just finished watching Part 2 of Time Flight. Oh, I hate this story. This is where everything falls apart. Well, not falls apart, so much falls apart, but just kind of crumbles in quiet, and isn't great for at all. Okay. I know you really shouldn't go on about budget for Doctor Who, because it's Doctor Who. It's cheap. And this is the end of the season. So, clearly this isn't one of those things where It's um, it's one of those things where you you get um, you get um, you get the um, you get what the story is uh, you get what the story is doing, and uh, you get the um, you get basically what is a total story change, and you know, and uh, you get the you get sort of just this whole things where uh, um, it's you get this gosh, it's so dumb. You get this story change as the villain of the story is in this first episode is we see is Kalid the Sorcerer, who studied in the deserts of Arabia and somehow is in the past and is bringing he's bringing the Concords back for power. Yeah, okay. Uh, what does that actually mean? Um, like, it doesn't make any sense. Um, and what, and he has like these plasmatons, which were the things that attack the Doctor at the end of part one, um, that do his bidding. Um, but he's has this base in the Citadel, but secretly it's not him, and like he gets destroyed by the end of part two, and surprise, he was actually the Master in a mask, which we'll get to that little twist, because this is the Master is in disguise, um, but um, uh, but it's one of those things uh, where you have um, where you have just the odd thing, um, just the odd thing of what this story is doing that doesn't make any sense. It's like I think it's supposed to be like, oh, he's the Master and he's he's disguised himself, I guess, so people won't recognize him, but he's taking people from the present. There's no reason for him to be in disguise. He's not like it's not like he's trying to get other people. He knows the Doctor's coming, but I guess he does. Like, then why doesn't he just stay in the shadows? Also, Miss and Tegan don't do much. I mean, there's a bunch of fan service here where they're running to the Citadel and they have to face their fears. So they have to face a vision of Adric, which I think was just added in, which I will say is actually nice, but also the Melker and a pterodactyl, and it's very weird. There's also this professor, and the captain of the Concord that they arrive in is like just he's like almost sycophantic toward the Doctor. It's very weird. this story, just on a whole, is weird and doesn't seem to know what it's doing. Like, it doesn't explain itself at all. Um, you know, at all. It's just like, we sort of exist. Um, you know, it's uh, it's it's just a very um, you know, it's a very very weird thing um, about about the story. Um, you know, it's it doesn't make much sense, and honestly, it's dull. There may be a good idea behind it, and I will say Peter Davison is fun, but that's about it. So overall, I'm going to give Time Flight Part 2 a 3 out of 10. Alright, it's the 27th of December 2019, and after, several days off because Christmas happened and life got in the way, Time Flight Part 3. Okay, yeah. Oh god, Time Flight is bad. Yeah, this isn't this isn't a good episode. This is a this is one of those episodes. Okay. This is hard to describe because the problem with the story isn't that things are happening. It's just the things that are happening make no sense. First off, Tegan and Nissa do absolutely nothing in this episode. Seriously, they are just kind of there. They don't really do much. It's not really a, this isn't a story where they get a, they get, their full, they don't really get a full sort of effect for the story. They're just like, yeah, we are here while the Doctor and the Master, they don't really face off. Yeah, the Master's there and is a villain and tries 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 to do things. We don't really know what his plan is. He's I think the idea might be that because that in escaping Castrovalva at the beginning of the season, he flung forward. He flung backwards in time with his TARDIS to the Jurassic period, basically to, basically to do, basically to do one of those, one of those things where you get, where you get just the story being one of those things where you have this idea, like there's this idea of the Seraphim, um, you know, where the um, where the story is a um, the story these are like it's a gestalt entity type thing that basically um, is basically one of those things uh, where you know it's one of those things where there is just this this plot, and you have all the characters having their moments, but you have like we don't really like you get the idea that the Seraphim have this citadel. What they're doing on Earth, you don't really get an explanation for. It's just sort of, oh, you know, um, one of those things where you have a um, where you have the ideas and the characters being there to tell this story. This isn't really a story you want to tell. It's not interesting. It's just like, and some people say, oh, it's just the budget that's the problem. No, the third episode doesn't explain itself. It's like, here's one of our ideas, and here's our alien race, but we aren't actually doing anything with said alien race. It's just, oh, we have an alien race now, and we don't get any like sort of really fleshing out of what the race is, what they're who they are. There isn't any world building. It's just I had kind of an idea, so I'm writing what I've got, and then we can try to maybe work out the details later, but the details never came. It was just like you know, we've got these characters, and the Master's doing stuff with the Doctor's TARDIS to like use the Seraphim's power, but he doesn't want to use his own TARDIS to do it because that would cause troubles, I guess, for the Master. Um, it's not really something that makes sense, and yeah, there's there's also this character who just disappears halfway through, Angela Clifford, which is just weird. It's um, this is a story that just needs more script editing, and a bit more, maybe just a bit more time in doing things. So overall, I'm going to give Time Flight Part 3 a 2 out of 10. Okay, it's 28th of December 2019, and I just finished Time Flight Part 4. So, yeah, the Master's plan was just to get his TARDIS working by controlling the Seraphim. And the story ends with the Doctor stranding him on the Seraphim home planet by basically magicking him there. Yeah, this really isn't a good story, like, at all. It's got some charm to it. Like, seriously, there's a decent amount of charm to it, but as a story, it's just sort of one where you have the characters, you know, you have the characters just be like, we're we're running around doing doing stuff, uh, and um, you know that's okay, but as a story, it isn't really that interesting. Um, 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 it's it's just the whole. It's mostly just like here's some ideas, here's here's a here's what what we could potentially where we could potentially be going with this story, but there isn't actually a lot here. It's um it very much is a blank um a blank sort of, almost like a blank slate with what the story's doing and what the plot means, and what the characters can do, and can have. um it's just like, okay, um you know it's 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 very much, um you know uh it's very much something, um you know uh very much a total and complete, just sort of idea where things don't really, they don't really, mean much. They're just um it's just sort of there, like Tegan gets left behind because reasons, um and um and which, um you know uh it's just Tegan gets left behind, and that's where the story goes. There's nowhere near as much, intrigue, or just fun character interactions, or fun science fiction um ideas, uh that um um it's one of those things where um where you get just the um you could um get the story, uh as sort of plain as it is. It's just one where you don't have, um you don't have a a plot, just a just sort of just this idea, and it's honestly, this isn't anything worth watching. It's a story full of just problems and issues, and things just not making sense, and things not really being, all that important. Just sort of, uh, just sort of there. Um, you know, not really, not really, doing necessarily new things. Um, it's just sort of a story. So overall, I'm gonna give Time Flight Part 4 a 2 out of 10. And with that, we add up and then average out the scores to give calculate a final score for Time Flight, which receives a 3.25 out of 10. Thank you, everybody, I guess, for watching this very late installment of the Ultimate Doctor Who Marathon. As always, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. I'd like to get a conversation going. If you agree with me, disagree, let me know in the comments down below. And join me next time when we start the Season 19B audios with the 5th Doctor and Nyssa solo team with The Land of the Dead.